Hello everyone, I am Neelam Deshmukh, working as an Associate Solution Architect at Episoro. I welcome you all to this session, and in today's session I will walk you through the MuleSoft Salesforce connector and few of its design patterns like data migration, broadcast and file transfer to Salesforce. So before we start, let's see the prerequisites that we will need for today's session. We will need the Salesforce developer account and an AnyPoint Studio. Visit developer.salesforce.com to create the Salesforce developer account. Sign up here, it's free. So for this session, I've already created one account for me. Once you log in, you will land up here. This is the home page. In Salesforce, the data is organized into objects and records. You can think of like a tab in a spreadsheet is like the objects in Salesforce, and a record is like a row in spreadsheet. The MuleSoft Salesforce connector, it allows us to directly connect with the Salesforce APIs and access its functionalities with seamless integration. Let's move on to the studio. In the Mule palette, you will not get the Salesforce connector by default. You need to search it in an exchange. Search for Salesforce connector. This is the one, Salesforce connector Mule 4. Add it. Since I've already added it in my Mule palette, I will not click on finish here. I will click on cancel. But for you, you need to click on finish. These are all the operations supported by the Salesforce connector. First, for the connector is the authentication and the session management support. The API authentication needs to be provided by the configuration. I've already created two configurations, Salesforce basic config and the OAuth config. Let's see those in detail. Let's first see the basic config. For this demo, I will be using the basic config. This is the simplest one to implement and is generally recommended for the internal applications. So for basic authentication, all you need to do is provide the username, the Salesforce developer account username, password and security token. Let's see how you will get the security token. Log into your Salesforce developer account, click on your profiles, settings, under my personal information, click on reset my security token and click here reset security token. Once you click here, it will send the security token to the email associated with your account. I have already created the security token for my session, so I won't be creating it, but you can create it. Let's see the OAuth configuration. The OAuth configuration involves few extra steps as compared to the basic one and is provide better security since whenever you have want to expose to the some external application. So in OAuth we need to provide the consumer key, consumer secret. So for this too we need to create a connected app in Salesforce account, the URL for authorization. These are the this will be the same one. The only difference here will be you need to give the instance of your account. So this you can get from your Salesforce account. So for my account, this is my instance. You can copy yours. The rest URL will be the same for authorize and token. This is the URL to access the token. The path for callback, the authorized path and the external callback URL. This will be the one that we have configured in the connected app. Let's see how you will get this consumer key and the consumer secret. In your account, go to setup. Under platform tools, click on apps, app manager. You will get the option here, new connected app. Click here. Give the name for the connected app. I will be using MuleSoft demo. Salesforce demo, let's say. Provide the email. Enable the OAuth settings. Give the callback URL. The callback URL will be the localhost 8081. Select all the OAuth scopes, add it here, and that's it. Click save. New connected app is created. So here it states that it will take 10 minutes to create the new connected app to be effective, but generally it won't take that much time. Click on continue. The new connected app has been created. Copy the consumer key and the secret from here, the callback URL which we need to provide in the configuration. So normally people prefer this OAuth as it provides better security. So once your application is deployed and if you have given the OAuth configuration, what happens is you need to hit the authorize URL. This authorized URL will land you to the Salesforce login screen. Log in there, allow the access, and the authorization code will be sent to the callback URL, which it stores internally by using some object stores. So once the app API is authenticated with Salesforce code, the connector handles the session management, ensuring the sessions are authenticated as required. You don't have to worry anything about the authentication. So these are the two configurations. Also, we have three more options for OAuth: OAuth JWT, username, password, and OAuth SAML. So for JWT and SAML, you need to provide the key stores. In the MuleSoft documentation, you will get the steps on how to create the key store files and password. You can refer those. Let's see the Salesforce operations. The great feature of this connector is it supports SOAP, REST, bulk, and the streaming API. The actual API which we used is automatically selected by the operations you want to go for, and we don't have to worry about what to specify, which APIs to utilize. Just drag the operations you are interested in. So I have already created the data migration flow here. I am making use of this on new object operation in get it here. So data migration, what this flow will do is it will move a specific, is like moving a specific set of data from one system to another. So in my flow, what I will do is once a new record has been created in Salesforce account object, this flow will be initiated and it will write to a file in my system. It's like moving the Salesforce record into my system. So what this operation does is it gets initiated whenever the user creates a new record in Salesforce object. Let's see the configuration which goes for this operation. I am making use of the connector configuration as the Salesforce basic one. Here is the object types, all the object types that are available in Salesforce. I am making use of the account object for this flow. Since So here I have specified that it date and the timing. The date should be like year, month and date format. This is HHMMSS. So if you don't provide the state here, so what happens is whenever the record is being created between your Mule application is starting and the creation of that record, it won't pick it up. So as a practice, as a standard practice, I generally prefer to provide this field. Scheduling frequency, it can be like fix or cron. You can also use a cron job here. The frequency I have mentioned here as 20 seconds, and that's it. In the transfer message, whatever output that is being provided by the Salesforce, the payload, I am making use of these three fields: account name, state, city. I'm just mapping it here. And in the configuration, I've created the file config here. So what I'm doing is I've created the migrated data folder under source main resources. Okay, let me delete this created one here first before deploying. So what it will do is when we deploy and run this, a file will be created with name account data.csv. So I will be creating the CSV one. I'm just logging the payload here. Let's deploy the application. It's already running. Let me just restart it. Okay, the application is deployed. Let's go to your Salesforce account and try to create a record in the account object. Let's create a new account here. So then named it as Salesforce test. Lot of things was mapped here. Let me try to give all of those account names, state and city. State I'm giving as image. Save. Okay, the account has been created. So you can see when we created this account here, it was picked by this connector, the only object, and in the log we can see the payload that it returns, Salesforce test, which was created in Salesforce, the state and the city. Let's refresh it. Should have created a file here. See, initially there was no file here. Now the file has been created, account data.csv. Okay, the account name has came here, Salesforce test, state and the city. Let's close this. Let's move on to our next flow, which is the broadcast one. So what does broadcast do? It will move a the data from basically a source system to multiple destination systems. So for that I am making use of an on modified object operation in Salesforce. You can get it here. This is the one on modified object. So in my flow I am using that operation. So what this operation does, it will be, this app will be initiated whenever the user modifies the existing record in Salesforce. I'm just mapping the payload here. I'm making use of the lead object from the Salesforce. Rest all configuration is same as the previous one on new modified, on new object operation. Only change will be the object type. I'm making use of lead object here. The same thing, since is been specified. Fixed frequency is 20 seconds, and the transform message I'm just mapping few of the fields from the payload. Okay, so what I'm doing is in this flow is the whatever data gets modified from the Salesforce, I am writing it to two processes. So basically the data will be moved from Salesforce to two systems. So for that I'm making use of the scatter gather. The scatter gather will process the payload parallelly in two processes. So for two processes what I'm doing is I'm writing in the data, Salesforce data, into two files parallelly, and I'm logging the data payload here. My application is already been deployed. Let's modify the lead object if there is already a record. Okay, it's there. Let me modify this. Let's modify the lead status to open. Click on save. So there are no files currently. Okay, you can see the payload here. So as and when I'm modifying a record in an object, Salesforce object, it was been picked up by this operation, and the data was written into a file parallelly in two systems. So these two files are like a two system. Think of it like a two processor systems where we can use this. Let's click on the lead data that I'm saving. So this was the one. Let me see what I'm writing to my file. Okay, it's the payload. So in the payload, what I am mapping is first name, last name, company, and the email. But in the spreadsheet, you can see Deshmukh and XYZ. So what are those? Why other things didn't came is because in my record, I have only mentioned the name, company, and phone. I am not specifying the last name, first name and last name, and email. So we just got the name, last name, and the company name. But if you are providing all of those information in the record, you will get it in the CSV file. Let's see this file. Yeah, the data is there. So this is how the broadcast flow works. So broadcast, you can use it like suppose in a POS system, if there is a change in the discount for one of the product and you want to notify it to the sub stores. So for that we can make use of this operation. Any change happening to a specific product will be notified parallelly to the subsequent stores. So this is the use of the broadcast pattern. Let's see the last flow, file transfer to Salesforce. What's this? Okay. So I'm using upset bulk operation from Salesforce. You can see it here. upsert. So for that I'm making use of the on new or updated file operation. Let's see the configuration that it goes for this operation. I am just specifying the directory. Under source main resource I have a contact folder. So whenever a new file is being created in this folder, this flow will get triggered. So what I am doing in this flow is I have a bulk contact list in this file. I have created the file contact.csv. So whenever this file is being placed in this folder, this flow will get initiated, and I'm mapping the response, first name, last name and phone from the records. And what this operation will do is it will upsert. So what's the difference between the upsert and update? So when an record is already being created in the Salesforce objects, update will just update it. But upsert, what it does is it update, as well as if the record is not there in the object, it will try to create a new one for it. So I am making use of upsert. So whatever contacts which I have in this CSV file, if the record is not there, it will try to create a new record in the Salesforce object. Let me just modify this. I am adding one more here. Save. So the contacts available in the CSV will be inserted in the Salesforce contacts object. Here I am making use of the contact object, Salesforce object, and the payload. This is the ID. The record will be differentiated on the basis of ID. Mapping the payload that is coming from the Salesforce and logging it. The application is already being deployed. Let me try to move this file. Okay, Studio is not responding. Let's wait for some time. Yeah, it's moved. Let's see, this operation will be initiated as we have moved the file in this folder. Okay, so this is the payload returned by the upsert operation. So we have upserted the bulk records. Okay, let's check in the Salesforce contact objects what all records have been inserted. ABCDEF is the one that I have created. GHIJKL, MNO, PQR. So these three were the already inserted record, since I have already deployed the application and it was initiated, the flow was initially initiated. But let's see the new record, the new data which we have created just now, STUVWX. You can see it here. So what happens is, for the record which are already being present, it didn't created the duplicate records in the contact objects. Instead, it just checked for the modification in this. If it was not there, so in the payload you can see, let me just take this payload, copy it from here. The payload is the huge one. In the status code you can see the duplicates detected. So this response, in the response you can get this message, duplicate records for the duplicate one. And for the one which is the new one, it will create the contact. See, in the errors you will get duplicate results. So this is a very powerful operation because it not only take care of the duplicate one, but it also does the bulk insert in the Salesforce object. So with this, I'm done with the design patterns for today's session. It also supports the Salesforce connector, also supports the streaming API, which is also the great feature, which includes the Salesforce platform events and change data capture events, which enables the event driven architecture to be implemented. Basically, it controls how the event driven data is propagated, speed of propagation, and even supports the replay capabilities in case suppose the data needs to be recovered from the downstream system failure. So maybe in the next session we will see how the streaming API works. It's a lengthy one because here you can see the operations for the streaming one: publish platform event message, publish streaming channel topic. You have to create it, actually is like a subscriber topic framework. So thank you, hope you guys like this video.